Thank you for volunteering to be a team leader during the 2024 Pinellas County Point in Time Count. This is your PIT team leader training. We are going to start with a quick review of best practices, a little bit of information about the point in time count, and then we are going to go into information about the 2024 point in time count survey, as well as the PIT app. We are using a new app, that's the digital survey tool for the 2024 Pinellas County PIT. So, what is PIT? PIT is an annual national event required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, and it provides a snapshot of individuals and families experiencing homelessness in our community during a given 24-hour period. In Pinellas County, we always do our PIT on the last Thursday in January, and we are going out and we are surveying and counting our neighbors who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, who are really only counted once a year through this PIT survey. Those who are experiencing sheltered homelessness are counted separately through HMIS. So, why do we do PIT? Why is PIT important? Well, it helps our continuum of care determine the needs of the community, and it helps us secure approximately $6 million in funding for critical resources, including affordable housing. It informs public policies locally and nationally, guides local planning and resource allocation, and of course, it helps us learn from our neighbors in need. And you can see on screen here a quick example of PIT data over the last several years from 2016 to 2023. Additional information as well as interactive graphs and maps are available on the HLA's website at pinellashomeless.org/PIT data. So please check that out. So you will be serving, of course, as a team leader during the point in time count. So what does that look like? So during PIT, teams of trained volunteers will go out and survey our neighbors experiencing homelessness across Pinellas County in areas like resource centers, bus stops, libraries, meal sites, and similar locations. We are not going out and surveying as volunteers areas like encampments, wooded areas along rail tracks. We are partnered with law enforcement and fire department, and they will go out and complete surveys in those areas. So our PIT volunteers, our teams of PIT volunteers will be in maybe areas like shopping center parking lots that might back up to a wooded area. And we would ask that even if your team is standing in a parking lot and there's a wooded area right across the street and you can see somebody in that wooded area, please do not go into that wooded area to complete the survey. Just our law enforcement partners will get out there and they will complete a survey later in the day if they haven't already. If the individual comes into the parking lot, please, of course, go ahead and complete a survey with them then. Just please do not go into the wooded areas to do those surveys. Um, your shift may involve a lot of walking, so please wear comfortable shoes and prepare for whatever the weather might be on that day. And if you do need accommodation and you did not write it in your volunteer application, please just reach out to the HLA via email and let the HLA know that you do need some accommodation so they can take that into account in volunteer scheduling. You will get your pitch shift assignment in email by January 19th. If you have not gotten the shift assignment by the 21st, please first check your spam folder. And if you still don't have it, reach out to the HLA via email and let them know so that they can get you on the schedule. Your shift assignment will have information about your deployment center, and that is where you will check in on January 25th for your pitch shift. And you will want to get to your deployment center about 30 minutes early to check in. And of course, please keep your schedule free until you get that assignment. Your shifts are only 3 hours long, but you will want to get to the deployment center about 30 minutes early. So please plan for that. And those deployment centers are going to be Boley centers. That will be the South Pinellas St. Pete area deployment center. The City of Largo offices, that will be the Mid Pinellas deployment center. The Homeless Empowerment Program in Clearwater will be the North Pinellas deployment center. And the Florida Dream Center will manage deployment for Lealman and Tarpon Springs. To prepare for PIT, please fully charge your phone or tablet. You are going to use your phone or your tablet throughout this process, and bring a backup charger if you have one. If you need, there will be a couple of tablets and backup chargers available to borrow at the deployment centers, but please be prepared and come with a fully charged phone or tablet on the day. Again, also please prepare for any weather and wear comfortable shoes and avoid bringing too many personal items. You will be carrying your phone or tablet, some paper surveys, some bus passes and resource cards to distribute, maybe a bottle of water, and you just don't want to have too much else to carry. If you do have items that you want to distribute, you will be provided with a list of volunteer and donation opportunities after PIT. And again, please plan to arrive at your deployment center at least 30 minutes before your shift begins so that you can check in. When you get to your deployment center as a team leader, you will check in, you will get your zone assignment, and then you will wait for your team, and your team will come, they will check in, you will find each other, and you will make a game plan for how you are going to go out into the community. When you have your team together, I recommend that you actually collect their phone numbers just in case, you get separated. Perhaps you're driving to your area and somebody stops off to get a coffee. You just want to make sure that you have each other's phone numbers so that you can let each other know that's what's going on. And then once you have everybody's information and you have a game plan for going out into the community, go forth and start doing surveys. Best practices while you are out in the field. Please always keep an eye on your team. I am a firm believer in the buddy system throughout the pit process. So please always keep an eye on each other. Please also stay within your assigned deployment zone. If you are in your deployment zone and it is slow, please call the deployment center and they will potentially reassign you to a new location. They might also know that, for instance, a meal service is going to start in that location soon. So though it might be slow for the first 30 minutes, maybe it's going to pick up in 15 minutes. So if it's slow in your zone, this is really important. Please call the deployment center and ask for advice. You will, of course, as a team leader, have contact information for the deployment center team in case you need assistance with the app or have survey questions or anything like that. Some survey best practices. When you approach people, be friendly. Try and remember that you are interrupting somebody's day to ask them to do a survey. So it might take them a second after they go from, wait, what? To go from, yeah, sure, okay, I can do that. So when you approach people, be friendly and ask if they want to participate in a survey about housing and resources in Pinellas County. And of course, don't be afraid to let people know that there is the bus pass incentive, which we'll talk about soon. And if somebody is too disoriented to complete a survey, you can absolutely terminate a survey, thank them for their time, and move on to the next survey. Before pit, this is really important. Read through your training guide, which you should have in email, and practice those digital surveys. There is no such thing as too many practice surveys between now and January 24th. You will have your login information for the app, and you will have the ability to do those practice surveys very soon. So please get in there and do practice surveys between now and January 24th. Do as many as you need to feel comfortable and to feel like you can walk through the survey fluidly and that you can answer your team's questions about the survey. And then during pit, if you are doing a survey, which as a team leader, you might actually find that you do fewer surveys than your team members. But if you are doing a survey, please remember to complete a survey for each present adult. You will do one of the long 28 question surveys for every present adult. Any adult who is not present, if they are at work or somewhere else, or any child, you will do one of the supplemental surveys. That is the 8-question survey. But for any present adult, please do one of the long primary surveys. Please complete the survey using the Survey 123 app as often as possible. Paper surveys are available as a backup, but they should only be used as a backup. So please complete surveys in the app whenever possible. And team leads, you are responsible for collecting paper surveys after they are completed. So once your team has completed a paper survey, they'll give that survey to you. I really highly recommend that you review that survey while your team member is standing next to you in case there's any part of it that maybe they didn't answer or that is actually illegible. You can go ahead and you can sort that, you can troubleshoot that problem right there in the field so that somebody doesn't have to do that after the fact when it might be a little bit harder to do. If your team member has blank surveys, you will collect those too. If your team member has surveys that are partially complete, just go ahead and strike a line through the parts that they couldn't answer. That's okay. Just make sure that you collect all surveys blank and complete at the end of the shift. As I mentioned, you will be giving out bus passes to everybody who completes a survey. These bus passes are going to be the Flamingo cards through PSTA. Unused bus passes, you will collect all of those from your team at the end of the shift, and you will bring them back to the deployment center when you bring back the paper surveys and everything. The bus passes do not expire, and again, we give one to everyone who completes a survey. You will also have some resource cards available for distribution as well. We do ask that you only give bus passes to people who have completed surveys. If you are doing a survey for somebody and they do a supplemental survey for their spouse, please only give them one bus pass for the person who is standing in front of them. If you are doing a survey for somebody and their child, their teenager is standing next to them, answering questions, doing the supplemental survey along with them, You can go ahead and also give them a bus pass as well. That might be a question that your team members ask, so we want you to be prepared. That is totally okay. If you are doing a survey with somebody who has to catch a bus, you are halfway through the survey, their bus comes, please do not make that person late. Please let them jump on the bus, give them their survey, let them go. We don't want to be the reason people are late for work. So let them go and give them their bus pass and just mark on the survey that you could not finish it. If you're in the app, you can just go ahead and put prefers not to answer before you submit that survey, and you'll see what that looks like when you get into the app. If you are doing a survey with somebody and they only give you their name and then say, I don't want to do the rest of your survey or something like that, please do not give them a bus pass. The bus passes are meant to encourage meaningful participation and to thank surveyors for their meaningful participation. So those are kind of the scenarios that you might run into with bus passes. But if you ever have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the HLA before PIT or to call the deployment center during PIT. So now we're going to talk about the PIT survey and the app. We are going to go through the digital survey while we talk about these survey questions. So the app that we will be using this year is Survey 123. This is powered by ArcGIS or Esri. Some team leaders may have ArcGIS accounts already through their employer. If you are a member of the Pinellas County team, you will have specific instructions for logging into this survey. Everybody else, if you have an account through your employer, please log out of that account and please log into the account sent to you by the HLA in email. Every volunteer and team leader will receive an email, unless they are employed by the county, will receive an email from the HLA with a username and temporary password, as well as a link. Please click the link in this email. Please use the username and the temporary password included in this email. Sign in using that username and temporary password, create a new password, set a security question, verify your email, and then you should be good to go and download the app on your cell phone or tablet. If you have any issues with this process, please do not hesitate to reach out to the HLA. Please go ahead and do those steps now. If you have not already, go into your email and set up your Survey 123 account, and then go into the App Store or the Google Play Store on your cell phone or tablet and download the ArcGIS Survey 123 app. And this is what that's going to look like in the App Store. Some tips using Survey 123. Do not share your password and only log into one device at a time. Please use a mobile device like a cell phone or a tablet. I do not recommend using a laptop. If you are using your cell phone or your tablet in the field to do surveys, you do not need to be connected to Wi-Fi or data. You only need to be connected to Wi-Fi or data to start and end the shift. So at your deployment center, you will connect to Wi-Fi or data. You will make sure you have the survey, you will get your deployment zone, you will make sure that you are well set up for that. And then if you want to, you can disconnect from Wi-Fi or data to go out into the field and do surveys. Those surveys will be saved as drafts on your phone or tablet that you can submit at the end when you reconnect to Wi-Fi or data. And of course, please practice doing surveys in the app through January 24th. There is no such thing as too many practice surveys, so please practice as much as you want or need to be comfortable. If you need help during PIT, please email the HLA at vkelly@hlapinellas.org. And during PIT, if you need assistance, please don't hesitate to call the deployment center, and you will be provided a phone number at check-in. Now we are going to review the PIT survey questions and app. You will see a demonstration of the app while we review the survey questions. You will have the opportunity to practice completing a survey in the app while following along with the video. The app we are using is Survey 123. Before training, you should have received an email with instructions to set up your ArcGIS account. This is how you access the Survey 123 app. You will have the opportunity to continue practicing completing surveys in the Survey 123 app until Wednesday, January 24th, the day before PIT. So let's go ahead and get started. Once you have the app downloaded and you've logged in using the link in your email, please log into the app. Once you've done that, please allow the app to access your location, at least while you're using the app, because this is how we create the heat map. Then you can go ahead and download the HLA Homelessness Count PIT survey. Once you click and download that survey, you'll see it there on your My Survey 123 homepage. And then you're ready to go. To start a PIT survey, you just click that HLA homelessness count icon and then click Collect at the bottom of the screen. Your current location will automatically load to the map. If this is incorrect, please click the map and move it to select a new location. If you've allowed the app to use your location, You should not have to do this. However, if you need to, it's important to know how. You can also, in the search bar here, enter a specific address or location. Let's say I am completing surveys in a Walmart parking lot, for instance. I can select Walmart or enter Walmart, and it will give me options for addresses close to my location on the map. I just select that location and then the check box, and then it has my location in the map. I am then going to select my survey zone and zone code. Please use any zone and zone code for training. Once you have your zone and your code selected, hit the arrow to move forward. This next screen is going to be an introduction script. Please practice reading this and don't be afraid to make it a little more your own because nobody wants to be interviewed by a robot. Okay? Once I've read that, I will click the arrow and move on to the next screen. If they say they do have a few minutes to complete the survey, I will select yes, and then I'll ask if they have completed the survey earlier today. If they say that they have done a survey earlier today, I will select yes. I will ask where, say library, and then I will hit the checkbox and submit the survey. I will then thank them for their time and move on because we are not going to do a second survey with somebody. We are going to then move on to the next person. And when we start surveying the next person, we will hit collect. We will make sure that our location is accurate. We will select our survey zone and code, and we will read our introduction script again. Once we've done that, we'll hit the arrow. We will ask if we are able to survey this person. Yes. Have they completed this survey earlier today? Let's say this time they have not. This is their first time, so we'll say no. And then you will see the consent script pop up on screen. Please read the blue part of this script, which is a Pinellas Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, is the information system electronic database used to record and analyze client service and housing data for individuals and families who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Pinellas HMIS is used to 1. Understand clients' needs, 2. Plan to have appropriate resources, and 3. Inform public policy in an attempt to end homelessness. Only staff who work directly with clients or who have administrative responsibilities can look at, enter, or edit client records. Data may be shared without the client's consent in instances of serious threats of health or safety if it is believed that the use or disclosure is necessary to prevent or lessen a serious and imminent threat to the health or safety of an individual or the public. Once we've read that, we will move on to the next page where we record consent. We'll ask, do you understand? If they say yes, we'll say yes. And do you agree to continue? If they say no to either of these questions, that's completely okay. We will just mark no. We will say reason for ending this survey refused. We will hit that check mark and we will submit the survey. We will thank them for their time and we will move on to survey the next person. However, let's pretend that they did agree to continue and then we'll move on to the next question. Before we do that though, please note, consent is really critical. The person might consent to completing the survey, but then withdraw consent for individual questions, and that is okay. Somebody is not required to answer every single question, though we do hope that they answer all the questions. So it's really, really important that that is understood. And once we have consent recorded, we are going to ask where the individual slept last night. Please note that we are only asking about the night of Wednesday, January 24th into the morning of Thursday, January 25th. If an individual states that they slept on the street, in a car, park, camp, or somewhere similar, please go ahead, mark that, and move down to the next question. If they say that they were staying in a shelter, transitional housing, or hotel motel paid for by somebody else, you'll see that you are prompted to ask, what is the name of the shelter or transitional housing where you slept last night? Or who paid for the hotel motel where you slept last night? Go ahead and record that information. Let's say they said HEP did. Somebody might also say that they were couch surfing, doubling up, staying at a friend's house, something like that. We do go ahead and complete these surveys as well. So if they say that, mark couch surfing and scroll down to the next question. However, if an individual says that they were in jail or prison, in a hospital or treatment facility, or in a house or apartment that they rent or own, and this does include hotel or motels that they pay for by themselves, please note that we are not able to complete these surveys. If they indicate any of these answers, jail or prison, hospital or treatment facility, house or apartment that they rent or own, then we will thank them for their time. We will click that arrow to submit the survey, and then we will move on to the next person. However, let's pretend that this individual was sleeping on a street. So we will scroll down and answer the next question. Do you currently have any other adults or children under the age of 18 in your household who are unhoused with you? So we are going to say yes. How many adults? Well, no adults. They are the only adult in their household, so we are going to answer 0 for that. How many children under 18? The answer is 1 there. So we are going to mark 1 by clicking that plus sign. And then we are going to hit the arrow to move forward. Now we are going to complete the survey for the adult who is standing in front of us. Please note that this question about survey category is the type of survey we will complete for this person. And there are 3 options here. Adult available means that an adult or an unaccompanied minor, somebody under the 18 who lives alone, under the age of 18 who lives alone, is standing in front of you completing a survey. Every present adult should complete an adult available survey. Adult not available means that you are completing a supplemental survey for an adult who is not present. You might complete one of these if, for instance, you're doing a survey with somebody whose spouse is at work. In that case, the person who is doing the survey, who is standing in front of you doing the survey, would be adult available. The spouse at work would be adult not available. Children is, of course, for anyone age 17 or younger, whether or not they are present. The only time you would not use children for somebody under the age of 18 is if they are an unaccompanied minor, in which case they would be adult available. The individual we are surveying who is standing in front of us is an adult. They are right there, so we are going to do adult available. They are the head of their own household. If you are doing an individual survey, they are always going to be the head of their own household. So they're the head of their household. Then we are going to ask if they would give us their first and last name. Of course, as with all questions, somebody might choose not to answer this question, but it is really important for us that we do get the answer to this question. First and last name is one of the primary ways that we ensure we are only counting people one time. So please do your best to get the first and last name. Let's say that this survey is for John Smith. We're then going to ask John if they know their date of birth. Let's say John does, and they are willing to give us their full birthday. Let's say John was born April 1st, 1962. So we are going to go to date. And then it looks like you're going to have to scroll through every year and month. Don't worry, you are not. If you click year there, you'll see that you can actually go through this little scroll bar and you can scroll down to 1962. Please note that you do have to have 1962 in the middle. You'll see here, I cannot click on 1961 or 1963 because it is not in the center, but I can click on 1962. While we are here, I want to note that this scroll only goes so far back as 1949. So if somebody was born in 1948 or earlier, you can use this toggle to 1949 and then use the arrows to go back further from there. So John was born in 1962. We're going to erase that birthday so we can put his correct one in there. May, I'm going to scroll through those months, though I could also do that same toggle. Though I think we were April 2nd, 1962, which I think is what I said for John. So you'll see here that John's age has automatically populated. He is 61 years old. Perfect. Now we are going to move on to the next question, and we are going to ask John if he could provide us with his social security number, or at least the last 4 digits of his social security number. Again, the social security number, the birthday, and the name are some of the primary ways that we ensure everybody is counted once and only once for the point in time count. So this data is incredibly important. Please try your best to get it. If John doesn't want to give us his social security number, we'll go ahead and we'll mark that as appropriate. However, let's say John does give us the last 4 of his social. We'll do partial. Then we'll go ahead and we'll type that in. Done. You'll notice that if instead of done, I had clicked that checkbox, it'll tell me that I haven't answered every question. So I'm not submitting incomplete surveys. Once I have the social security number entered, I'm going to ask John how they identify their gender. I am able to select as many options as needed here. And of course, as with all questions, this is based on self-reporting. So please do not answer this for John. Please let John answer this themselves. So let's say that John identifies as a man and as non-binary. We're going to ask John if they are currently pregnant. John is not. And then we're going to ask John what race they identify as. Again, you'll notice that you can select multiple options here. Let's say that John identifies as white. Then we are going to ask John if he currently serves or has ever served in the military. And let's say he is a veteran. Yes. And you can see, of course, before I hit yes, that it did still have that required box up. That's because, of course, I had submitted that checkbox, but I hadn't actually answered every question yet. So once I say yes, John is a vet, it'll prompt me to thank him for his service. So please thank John for his service. And then we're going to ask John what the last grade they completed in school was. Let's say John got their bachelor's degree. We're going to ask John how long they were in Pinellas County before they became unhoused. Did they arrive unhoused, which means that they moved here while they were experiencing homelessness? Were they here for 1 to 3 months, less than a month, less than 12 months before they started experiencing homelessness? Were they here for more than a year before they started experiencing homelessness? Or are they a lifetime Pinellas County resident? Let's say that John moved to Pinellas County 5 years ago. And was in Pinellas for a couple years before he started experiencing homelessness. So we're going to say 1 year or longer. Then we're going to ask John what area he mainly stays in. You can see here that you have multiple cities to choose from. You also have Hillsborough County and Pasco County, and you can choose other cities, states, and counties. If they choose other cities, counties, or states, please indicate that in the box there, Sarasota, let's say. Done. And then we would move forward. However, let's instead say that John is usually in Safety Harbor. Then we're going to ask if John was ever in foster care. Let's say no. And we're going to ask John about their sexual orientation and if they identify themselves to be heterosexual, lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, unsure, or if they don't know. And let's say John identifies as gay. And then we're going to ask John if housing related opportunities are available. Would you like to provide contact information so that we can contact you? This gives folks the opportunity to follow up with people after PIT. If John does want to be contacted, then our teams might reach out to him if housing related opportunities are available that might be relevant to him. So let's say John says yes. You'll notice that you can give a phone number, an email address, and or a frequent location or mailing address. You do not have to provide all of this information. But let's say that John gives us his phone number and his frequent location, which is the Maddie Williams Center in Safety Harbor. And done. Now we're going to ask John what the primary reason that caused them to lose their permanent housing this time was. Please know that you might get some backstory from folks here, and it's really important to honor that history while narrowing down the cause of this specific incident of homelessness. So let's say that John experienced homelessness when he was living in Virginia and then got a job offer in Florida. So John moved to Florida and was stably housed in Florida for a couple of years before he began experiencing homelessness because he lost his job. And then John got a new job, got back on his feet, managed to secure housing, ended up having to move out because he couldn't afford the doubled cost of rent and is now on the street. So the reason that John's experiencing homelessness this time would be not enough income. All of those other reasons, all of those other stories, all of those other parts of John's history are incredibly important. But again, we are narrowing down what caused this specific incident of homelessness, which is that John couldn't afford the doubled rents. So we're going to say not enough income. We're going to ask John if they've ever been evicted. If the answer is zero, please say zero. Let's say John has been evicted one time though. So we're going to say one and then done. And we're going to ask John, was that eviction in Pinellas County? Let's say no. Then we're going to ask John, have you been in jail or prison within the last 12 months? Let's say, yes, John, spent a couple of nights in jail. You will notice the next 3 questions are all kind of a set. They are very related. And if you approach them this way, it might make answering them and helping folks answer them a little bit easier. So in the past 3 years, how many months in total do you think you've been unhoused? Remember, we are completing the survey in January of 2024. So we are thinking back to January of 2021. So since January of 2021, how many months in total do you think you've been unhoused? Well, you have here different options between 1 month and 12 months or more than 12 months, just to keep things a little bit simpler. So in John's case, he might say, I've been more than a year. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. Perfect. And I'm just going to put more than 12 months for this. The next question is going to be, including this time, how many separate times have you stayed on the streets or in shelters in the last 3 years? So since that same January of 2021, John, how many separate times have you stayed on the streets? So you were unhoused for a little bit, and then you secured housing for a little bit, and you're back on the streets now. So that would be 2 times since January 2021. Okay. 2 times. So we're going to say 2 times. And now this last question in this set, how long have you currently been unhoused? We're going to say, okay, so this most recent time, how many months, years, or days has it been since you lost that housing? And let's say John said it was a year and a half. And you'll notice here that I cannot say 1.5. It'll just put 15. So I have to say, John, do you think it was closer to 1.5 years or 2 years? And if John says, I don't know, 2 years, say, okay, John, 2 years. There we go. And you'll see here, because I hit that check mark, I got required questions because can't submit an incomplete survey. So when I put in 2 years for John, it auto-populated 730 days so that you don't have to do that math. And now we're going to move on to health conditions. And we're going to ask John all of these individually. We're going to say, John, do you suffer from or have any of the following health conditions or issues? And again, please take this as self-reporting, not what you think the answer should be. So, John, do you have alcohol use disorder? Let's say no. Drug use disorder? No. A chronic health condition? No. A developmental disability? No. HIV/AIDS? No. Mental health disorder? No. Physical disability? Yes. Okay. And do you have access to health services or a medical clinic? And this might be, you might hear folks say, oh, well, I have the blue card, or I do the mobile medical or the MMU. That is the healthcare for the homeless program. If they say that, if they say they go to Bayside, then the answer is going to be yes. And then the last question on the survey is going to be about domestic violence. I'm going to pause on this because I do want to talk about the fact that this is a sensitive question, both to ask and answer. Of course, we have to approach this entire survey with care and compassion. But we also have to understand that this is a particularly sensitive topic for a lot of people. So please be prepared for folks to maybe be uncomfortable, maybe get quiet, or maybe rush through this answer. Please also be prepared for folks to say, what? So we'll start by asking, are you a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking? If they say, what does that mean? You might want to say something like, have you ever been afraid for your safety with a romantic partner or family member? And if they say yes, we'll mark yes, and we'll move down to the next question. Is the current unhoused situation a result of fleeing from domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking? They ask what this means. Are you currently experiencing homelessness as a direct result of the domestic violence or that fear? Then we'll go ahead and mark their response. Yes, no, don't know, prefer not to answer. Let's say no. And then we will hit the arrow to move on to John's kids survey. We have completed John's survey. Congratulations. Now we're going to ask John about their kid. So for John's child, because this is a child under the age of 18, it does not matter if they are there or not. We're going to mark them as a child, children. And we're going to ask John, what is this individual's relationship to you? John will say child. And then we're going to ask John for the child's first and last name. Again, please try really hard to get the name, birth date, and social security number, because it is really important that we are able to ensure everyone is counted once and only once through this process. So let's go ahead and mark yes for name. And let's say they are Joe Smith. Of course, if John had chosen not to give you the child's name, we would just mark no, and we would move on to the next part. But they didn't this time. So Joe Smith. And then we're going to ask John for Joe's date of birth. Let's say that John gives us Joe's partial date of birth. That's going to be month and year. Let's say that Joe was born in May of 2014. So we are going to scroll to May. And then we can actually erase the year here and we can write in 2014. And then we just click on the page and it will auto-populate that in years. And Joe Smith is 9 years old. And now we're going to ask John for Joe's social security number. If John doesn't have that information or doesn't want to give it, of course, we can just say no or don't know or prefer not to answer. However, again, please try and get at least the last 4. Let's say we do. There we go. And then we're going to ask John how Joe identifies their gender. Let's say that Joe identifies as a boy. And then we're going to ask what race Joe identifies as Let's say that Joe identifies as white. And then we are going to hit the checkbox or the check mark. And then we are going to send the survey. And now we have completed a survey for John and Joe Smith. Way to go. Paper surveys are available to use if needed. Every team will go out into the field with a few primary surveys and supplemental surveys to use as backups. And it's important that you, the team leader, know how to use these surveys if your team member needs to do so. So this survey, which of course you have a copy of in your training guide and you'll see a picture of on the next slide, has a section at the very top that the volunteer has to fill out. This is where the volunteer puts their name, their location, their survey zone, and all that. They do this so that we can complete the paper survey digitally afterwards. We want to make sure that we are able to input this data once the survey is complete. We also want to make sure, in case there's any part of this that we can't read, that we can reach out to the volunteer to ask them perhaps what it says. On that note, I'm going to remind team leaders, don't forget to double check the paper surveys. Make sure every question is answered, and please make sure that it is legible so that we don't have to try and reach out to that volunteer leader. If your team member is doing a survey and the person they are surveying indicates that they are a survivor of domestic violence, we ask your team member to please flag that survey for you. As the team leader, we ask you to highlight that survey. You will have highlighters when you go out into the field. Highlight that paper survey up in the top so that on the back end, we can make sure fewer people see it. We, of course, make sure that we are protecting everybody's confidentiality throughout this process, but we take extra care to make sure fewer people see the surveys of survivors. So just go ahead and highlight that for us. Also, if you're doing a paper survey and something happens and you can't complete the paper survey, like we said, go ahead and put a line through the questions you could not answer. And then at the very top, there's also a box that you check and it just says unable to complete survey. Just go ahead and check that. And that's the end. And of course, this is what the paper survey looks like. It looks like a lot, but it's only 28 questions. So ending a volunteer shift. As the team leader, you are responsible for dismissing your volunteers. At the end of your shift, your team needs to reconnect to Wi-Fi or data if they were disconnected, and they will have surveys saved in the app if they were disconnected from Wi-Fi or data. They're going to need to submit those. You, the team leader, will look at their home screen in the survey 123 page, and right under where it says collect, the button that you click to start the surveys, if there is a button there that says outbox, it means that there are unsent surveys. And you can see on screen, those red arrows are pointing to the outbox. If you see outbox, it means there are unsent surveys. To send the surveys, just click outbox, and then you'll have a button that says send on the bottom right of the next screen. Hit send. And that's really all there is to it. Once you hit the back button, you'll go back to the Survey 123 homepage, and you will see that there is no outbox there. It just says collect. If it just says collect, that means that your team member has submitted all of their digital surveys. If they have submitted all of their digital surveys and they have given you all of their paper surveys, all the extra bus passes, all the extra resource cards, then you can go ahead and dismiss your team members. You, as the team leader, are the only person that needs to return to the deployment center. We do need the team leader to return to the deployment center to return any paper surveys, any borrowed tablets and backup batteries, unused bus passes, resource cards, clipboards, anything like that. But again, if you have verified that your team member has submitted all of their digital surveys and you have collected all of their supplies, then you can dismiss your team of volunteers. Your volunteers are welcome to keep their lanyards and the pens if they want to, but please do plan to return to the deployment center as the team lead. If you need to reconnect to Wi-Fi or data to submit those surveys, your team can return to the deployment center with you, or you can just go to a local library or something like that and reconnect to Wi-Fi there. A few quick reminders, like important dates. You will receive your volunteer schedule by January 19th. This will include your deployment center information. This is where you check in, as well as your volunteer time. If you have not received this email by January 21st, please first check your junk mail folder. And if you still don't have it, please reach out to the HLA to ensure that you are put on the schedule. January 24th is the last day to practice doing surveys in the Survey 123 app. So please complete as many practice surveys as you want between now and January 24th, but please do not do any practice surveys on January 25th, because January 25th is, of course, the point in time count. Please remember to block your schedule until you get your volunteer schedule. January 25th is the point in time count. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the HLA. And if you are able, please take a few moments to complete the volunteer training follow-up survey so that we can improve next year's training. And of course, don't forget to complete your training quiz.